Years ago, when we were all sitting around buying the story of how the bad guys came over and bombed the good guys at Pearl Harbor. Well, is that really the story? And we're talking to Robert Stinnett because of the a massive amount of research that he has done. And I have to ask you, sir, that the code breakers, or the code, the Japanese codes, played such a big role in this. How do we know that the codes had been broken and, in fact, the U.S. was aware that there was going to be an attack on Pearl Harbor?
Yes, the U.S. Navy had 25 monitor stations in the Pacific Basin that stretched all the way from the West Coast to the Asian mainland, where there were also British and Dutch monitor stations. So these 25 stations had about 200 cryptographers listening in 24 hours a day to the Japanese Navy's messages, and they were sending about 1,000 messages every 24 hours. It was in code, so that was taken down by radio by what was called a Morse code, dot, dash, that type of thing. And these were written up each day, they say about 1,000 messages every 24 hours, and they were sent then to processing centers, one in Manila at Corregidor, and the other at Pearl Harbor, which was called Station Hypo. Hypo stood for H, meaning Hawaii. And there the codes were broken down, and then radio direction finders, when the Japanese warships radioed these messages, you could locate them by radio direction finders. We had radio direction finders in these monitor stations.
You know, I want to open up the phone lines because I know a lot of listeners would probably like to talk to you. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231 if you'd like to talk to Robert Stinnett. I want to go back to the good guys versus the bad guys. Who do we know from the involvement then? Of course, Admiral Kimmel's name, General Short, of course the President's name is bantered around, but what do we know about those people as to who was in the know, besides, you say, the President of the United States, that it was going to be attacked? Did the Chief of the Navy know that they were going to be attacked and allow this to happen?
Yes, the Chief of Naval Operations, his name was Admiral Stark, and he had command of these monitor stations, and so he knew that this was happening. So did President Roosevelt, because he was getting copies of these messages, and there was also a Japanese naval spy that was secreted in Pearl, or in Honolulu, that was preparing bomb plots of Pearl Harbor, and he was sending this by radio to Tokyo and to the carrier fleet of Japan. But we were intercepting these messages, and they were sent to the White House, where President Roosevelt could read them. But nothing was done because we wanted to find out when the attack would occur. And so in the first week of December, the spies sent out that the people of Honolulu were busily shopping for Christmas, and they were not alert to any attack. And then on December 6th, he said it's all clear for a surprise attack on these places. These were all intercepted, decoded, and in the hands of American naval authorities.
Now, some of these men that served in the Navy are still entombed in the ships that were in that area. How sad it is. And their families never knew. Their families never had any idea that such treachery, such treason had occurred. Let me go to a couple of callers here, and then we'll get back to the issue of this created event. Let's go to John in Ohio. John, you're on the air with Robert Stinnett. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've always read information that this attack was a LIHOP attack prior to 1980, and I would ask, though, that I'm not sure that Roosevelt, at this point, after listening to Webster Tarpley, was aware of the specifics and timing of the attack, and that actually he may not have been known of this. Another interesting story is very important. During the 30s, the top Wall Street interest, big business interest on Wall Street, and Prescott Bush had a plot to overthrow Roosevelt and put the United States into alliance with Hitler and Mussolini, because they planned at that point to have Hitler attack the Soviet Union. And it didn't work out that way. He bit the hand that fed him and actually supported the rise of the Nazis in the United States and England. And so I think this is something that people ought to look up. If you want to look up on Michael Parenti, Professor Michael Parenti, and the plot to seize the White House, I think this is a big, important backstory to this, and also the fact that it has relevance, of course, to what we're doing to Iran and sending in provocateur terrorists to kill and destroy there from Iraq and inside Iran, and actually perpetrating acts of war with these sanctions, which would be, if they are successful and increasing, would be acts of war against Iran to provoke them.
Oh, you bring up so many good points. Thank you very much, John. I don't know. What is your thoughts regarding whether or not the president did know? What tells you that Roosevelt did know and allowed his troops to be murdered?
Well, the intercepts on November 25th, 1941, done by Station Hypo, there were extensive communications from the commander of the Hawaiian carrier fleet. He was talking with the commander of the submarines and the commander of the Japanese invasion forces that were going to hit Wake and Guam. These messages were sent by Admiral Kimmel to the White House. And so the president knew this was happening, but did nothing about it. More messages came in on December 7th, including a last-minute 1 o'clock hour that was the 0 hour, but they did nothing to warn, to alert the American forces, because they wanted this successful sneak attack to unite American public against the isolation movement.
Now, what about Admiral Kimmel? Tell us about his role in this.
Admiral Kimmel was commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet, and he received a summary of the messages, the intercept messages, each day. And so he was informed of what was going on with the Japanese fleet, the carriers, talking with the oil tankers that were going to refuel them on the journey, the long journey from Japan to Hawaii. So all of this was both shared with Admiral Kimmel and with the White House. But they wanted, the Roosevelt administration wanted this attack to occur to unite the country. And then that, of course, is what happened on December the 8th, because millions flocked to recruiting stations and joined the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps. It was a success.
Oh, it breaks my heart. I mean, where's the outrage right now? I'm not acting outraged, or I am not outraged as much as we should. I mean, we should be asking for another convening of an investigation to go forward. This would cripple the administration, any administration's role, given the fact that such powers that be can do such heinous kinds of things to our own people and then stand back and just use the, oh, we're so stupid excuse. Just breaks my heart. Let me go to Richard in Alabama. Richard, you're on the air with Robert Stinnett. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Mr. Stinnett. Have you heard anything about Plan JB 355, aircraft requirements of Chinese government?
No, that has not come up in the the Navy documents that I've seen.
Well, 34 B-17s were destroyed on the runway at Clark Air Base when the Japanese came in and raiding.
That's right.
Yeah. And according to Plan JB 355, they were to be deployed to China. and they had fuel and bombs pre-deployed, and they were going to paint Chinese markings on these B-17s and use them to carry out raids on Tokyo. And that was the straw that broke the Japanese camel's back.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, those B-17s that you were talking about was at Clark Field in Luzon in the Philippines, and those are under the command of General Douglas MacArthur. But he received orders from Washington to not go on the offense and to keep